announcement has been paid for by the Celtic World Order.
Oh, good evening, good afternoon, whatever time it is that you may be watching us. Welcome back to Celtic World Order. It's a pleasure to welcome you back, whether you're a returning subscriber or if you are a new viewer alike. It's a full house. It's surprising. Look at this. The boys are back in town. The band is back together, whatever way you want to spin it, because for the first time in a long time, there's a full trio. Every single member of the CWO team is here. Paddy Boy, the OG, my bearded brother, and of course, are looking very fresh and handsome and rejuvenated. Josh McCaffrey down the bottom there with his new haircut, looking and cutting a almost Chasm O'Grew levels of handsomeness. Lads, it's beautiful to have you here on, but it's a beautiful day. So how are we all?
Josh, on you
go. Cheers, Paddy. I'm very good, Steve. Obviously been a while, but a lot of good things have been happening with Celtic, bar and Borussia Dortmund. So, good to be back on. The new haircut, feeling good. So, I'm looking forward to it.
Looking the part. I'm sure you'll sound the part in yourself, Paddy. Skins in.
Yeah.
No hair for
Skins
you.
Skins in, mate. I had a wee party there at the weekend, so I had to shave the head and go for that. Yep, just if I can shift this cold, it'll be a hell of a lot better. But happy for a change.
Absolutely. And it'll be positivity, because even though it's the international break, there's actually some news to talk about, which is something a wee bit of a rarity. And it's absolutely amazing to have both you guys here to pick your brains, go over what's the rumour mill is, what we've been seeing, and get your general thoughts on it. So as we say quickly, welcome to every single one of you. Make sure you hit the like, hit the subscribe, share it if you want to, and we're also on X at CWPod1888. Really do appreciate all the support that we've been getting and growing the community. Thank you very much. As we say, let's get down to business. And before we do, obviously, we've got a returning Josh here, and it's been a while, mate. Obviously, we know that you've been out there. You've been doing work placements with your journalism. You've been getting on with your studies at uni, etc. So very, very busy. And hopefully we've seen a lot more of you more regularly. But we've not really had a chance outside the chat group to have a wee chat about how the progression of the season's been so far. You know, Paddy and I sat down the other day and chewed the fat over it. But right now at the moment, just give us a wee synopsis, mate. What you been thinking with our general form?
I think it's been terrific, barring the nightmare in Germany in Dortmund. I think it's been a brilliant start to the season for Celtic. I think I'll stay away from talking about that 7-1 defeat. So aside from that, things have been brilliant at the start of the season. Obviously, you've had a range of good performances. So you've had games where Celtic have brushed teams aside, like St Johnstone away when they won 6-0. You've had the derby where they put Rangers to shame. And you've also had games where it's been tough, but they've got over the line, like Ross County last weekend. Nicholas Kuhn comes up with the goods at the last minute. There's been a lot of positive performers. I think Kuhn's been a really, really standout player at the start of this season for Celtic. He's come into his own, really. It was a tough gig for him in the first 6 months after he joined the club. Kasper Schmeichel's looking good between the sticks. He's still not conceded from open play in the league. Obviously conceded that penalty, which he was unlucky with. So yeah, things are rosy in the garden for Celtic at the minute. I think it's 7 wins out of 7 in the league. You've obviously got that massive game against Aberdeen next week, so that'll be a real test. Probably more of a test than what Rangers were, perhaps, given the form Aberdeen have been on. Aberdeen are Celtic's title challengers at the minute. That's the way things stand at the top of the table. So that's the biggest game of Celtic's season domestically next week. So yeah, things have been good. A lot of good performers in the team, and there isn't much to complain about, if I'm honest. It was a bit surreal, the Bratislava game. Winning 5-1 in the Champions League, and then going to Dortmund and being on the other side of that. So seeing if the manager changes things at Atalanta a week on Wednesday, I don't think he's going to, but I think he does have to change it. Where he does, it's a different question. I don't think he will, but Europe aside, Dortmund aside, it's been a brilliant start to the season for Celtic.
But that's the nature, isn't it? It's sort of European football. And, you know, to do the cliche, isn't it? It's you're stepping multiple levels up. Yeah. You know, we sat here and we spoke about them. The Bratislava was fantastic. And what I would say is for me, that's really the measure of where we should be looking at. That's kind of our barometer, because when we look at those other home games that we've got, those remaining 3 home games, you know what? RB Leipzig are going to be a tough proposition, no doubt about it. But there's absolutely no reason why we can't be looking at what we've done against Bratislava and almost consider that to be what the norm should be in those European games. You know, that's the whole purpose of this new format. People, for whatever reason, still don't seem to like it, but it gives you an amazing chance to not only pit your wits against the absolute elite, you know, the likes of your Dortmund that are going to maybe give you a hiding. That's the way it goes. but also play teams and be very competitive against them. So, we all sometimes, I've heard fans say, if we were in the Europa League, we would do better because that's more their level. Look at those teams that we've still got to play. I'll throw Dinamo Zagreb into there as well. There's absolutely no reason why we shouldn't be looking at those games and thinking, here we go, kick on and see if we go on and do as I expect, and I hope that we will go and get anywhere between 79 points out of the main home games. I'm expecting us to take something out of Dinamo Zagreb as well. Nobody will be complaining come the end of it. Well,
Oh,
No,
100%.
not at all.
On you go,
If
Paddy.
you think back to Steve, when we had Peter Grant on as well, and we spoke to Peter, and me and him had the same kind of view going into the Champions League. Yeah, you don't want to see your team getting beat, but you want to be playing against the bigger teams. And we spoke about it. Peter was saying as well, he wanted to see Celtic play Real Madrid at Celtic Park. He wanted to see Barcelona coming. You want to go to Borussia Dortmund and things like that. Of course you do. You don't want to see your team get beaten. That's the other side of it, of course. But like you've highlighted there, there's teams in this new format that we're looking at and we're going, that's doable. That's
more than doable. Absolutely.
I mean, Aston Villa away. I mean, we're looking at this going, right, come that time, we could possibly have already qualified. So that's going to be a battle of Britain that we can just go and enjoy. Yeah. And I think when we start to play a football and enjoy a football, we're different class. So I'm really looking forward to them. And looking forward to the Aberdeen game as well, like Josh highlighted.
And there's plenty to be optimistic about. And on that format, Josh, what's your thoughts off it? We've not really had a chance to speak about the Champions League. If you like what you've saw so far, the way that it's panning out and the sort of round of different games that you're getting in general, what's your thoughts on it?
It's really good. I think just the amount of football that's on is really good as well. You've got football Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
It's brilliant, isn't it?
8, 9 games a night or something like that. A couple of my
bad
pals
for the other half, good for us though, eh?
Exactly, that's it. I think a lot of my pals are losing some money on bets because there's a lot of games on, but I'm keeping my mouth shut on that. But yeah, for Celtic, I think it's greatly beneficial. Even you can afford, this is a good thing. Celtic can afford, although no one wants to see it and it's not great and it needs to be stopped, these continual thumpings, but you can afford to have 1 or 2 scalps because there's 8 games and 4 of them are at home. And especially the way the draw has worked out, they're against teams that, I mean, all of the teams Celtic have got Parkhead are beatable. Some are easier than others. But yeah, I think it's good. And I have no doubts as well, like yourself, Steve, that Celtic will get the 7 to 9 points required, whether it's going to come from Bruges at home and Young Boys at home or Leipzig, whoever it may be. And there's also a sneaky chance that you can get something at Zagreb away. I think we've all kind of written off Atalanta and Villa. We'll just have to wait and see, though. I think it's really good so far. And like you say, obviously, dropping into the Europa League, Celtic would probably get a run in there, but you want to see your team in the Champions League, don't you, regardless of the draw. So yeah, it's all good.
No, it's looking positive on the field, and as I say, it's just a sort of general catch-up. It's good to have this. I love to, as I say, been missing your opinion. That's no disrespect to you, Paddy. I love you as well, mate, but I like to get some fresh opinions here. And we spoke about how there's a lot to be positive about. I know at times myself and Paddy have come on here and there's been things, sticky result with Ross County, Dortmund, but we've got a reset period. We're during this international break and it's a perfect opportunity to get guys back to fitness, just recalibrate and go again, because, one sticky result, post-European hangover, it's nothing to beat yourself up about. And some people have been getting a bit over the top with that. I understand that, but no, we should be totally positive about it moving forward. We spoke about players developing, how things have been going so well. You highlighted Nicholas Kuhn. He's been outrageous as far as this season has been going. Kasper Schmeichel's undoubtedly an absolute upgrade as well. What's your general thinking about the new guys that have come in? Because some of them have been getting, again, unrightly so, a bit of a hard time, which I thought was completely bizarre. The likes of Arne Engels now coming in at that fee. I don't know, people maybe expect the world from the off. I heard some criticisms. I think everybody was poor in Dortmund. Nobody covered themselves in glory at Ross County, but we got the job done, so who cares? But I think he's settled very well. And what's your thoughts on the likes of Engels moving forward, McCown as well, and the guys that get brought in at the tail end there?
Yes, I think there's 4 players that I'll touch on. Obviously, start with Engels. £11 million signing. He's come in as a high potential young player, and the fee Celtic paid for him, club record fee, people are expecting the world. Obviously, I would totally agree with that. If you offered us our current position, you'd have taken it at the start of the season. But yeah, Engels, coming as a high potential young player, and people are expecting the world of him because he cost £11 million. But you need to remember he's only 21. He just turned 21 a week after he signed for Celtic, so he's not going to be putting in like 10 out of 10 displays every week. But I have no doubt that he'll turn into a really good and key player for Celtic in the coming years. And he'll probably come back against Aberdeen, and I wouldn't be surprised if he put in a man of the match performance. To be honest, there's a reason.
Absolutely.
There's a reason that boy is continually getting called up for Belgium in spite of these poor performances over the last 2 games. So yeah, I have no doubts that he'll return to the form he showed in his first couple of appearances. You look at Bratislava in the Champions League, he was a standout that night. Hearts at home, he scored in his first league start. So he'll return to that form soon, I have no doubt. Alex Valle at left back, he's looked good in the past couple of games. It was his first start at Ross County. He had a couple of cameos, and even I think in the Dortmund game, most people were poor in the Dortmund game, but when Valle came on at half time, I thought he showed a bit of fight, but a grit that was perhaps missing in the first half, and he was quite good. And then got the opportunity to come off the bench in Perth as well, and a nice wee back heel assist. And then I thought it was top class, wasn't it? I thought he was one of the better performers as well at Ross County and Dingwall. And obviously with Taylor still injured, Valle will probably start against Aberdeen and then perhaps against Atalanta as well. I would perhaps argue he's a bit of an upgrade on Taylor. He's a totally different player though. He can beat a man, he can get to the byline, he's quick. I think he's quite strong in the tackle as well. So very happy with that. Alex Valle, and where he's going to sign permanently, I would hope he does. Looking at Luke McCown, that's when I was desperate for the club to get over the line.
Very good bit of business.
Exactly, very good. £1 million. And I think in every team, in every Celtic team, you need that core of Scottish players who knows what the club means, who are Celtic fans at heart. And Luke McCown is just that. He's come in, he's been limited to cameo appearances so far, but he's done really well in them. He's scored. He came on at half-time, or 60-minute mark, in Dingwall, and really brought an energy that was missing in the first half, and him and Paul Bernardo changed the game. Talking about Paul Bernardo, seen the comment there, under 21 qualifying for Portugal for the Euros next summer, which is great.
Euro guys out there.
He's the captain of Portugal under 21s. It was a really good goal he scored last night, and I think the £3.5 million Celtic paid for Paulo Bernardo is better as the days go on. Paddy, like
a bargain, isn't it?
It's an absolute bargain. He'll probably be the next one who goes for £25-30 million, I have no doubt. And then finally, Austin Trusty. He's split opinion. He's come in for Cameron Carter-Vickers. It's big shoes to fill over the past couple of weeks, and I think in the domestic games he's handled himself pretty well. St Johnstone away was fine. Thought he was not too bad at Ross County, but everyone was not too bad. Dortmund didn't cover himself in glory, but neither did anyone. I think
that was one of those ones, quite literally, wasn't it?
You can just put a line under that Dortmund game. It's one of the ones where, although quite angry with it after the game and in the days after, but in reflection a couple of weeks later, like we are now, you can realise that kind of everything fell in Dortmund's favour, and everything that could have went wrong for Celtic did go wrong. So I don't think you can blame Trusty for that.
No.
Although it's some individual errors in the game, but I think he's been solid. And what I'm excited to see about Austin Trusty, Liam Scales has been excellent this season, and he's been a step up from last campaign. But I can't. My phone's ringing here. That's brilliant. I'm going to go and turn that off 2 seconds, and I'll get back.
No worries.
On the Liam Scales point there, Steve, when Josh is talking about him, Liam also got a goal at the weekend.
A fantastic header during the week, yes.
Yeah, it was really good.
Cracking goal. So that just shows what we're getting for him as well. He's pushing on. I think he's hit another level this year. We were slating him last year. On here, we really were. Him and Greg Taylor got it near enough every week, but absolutely outstanding. Both of them have been. So, chuff for that. Back over to you, Josh, on you go, man.
Yeah, definitely. On Trusty, I'm just excited to see when him and Cameron Carter-Vickers play together. Trusty at left centre-back, where he's his strongest, and Cameron Carter-Vickers at right centre-back. So when that partnership comes to fruition, I'm very looking forward to seeing what they can produce.
And that's a good thing to have, though, isn't it? We spoke about, Liam Scales says in the international fold, gets his goal the other day there, fantastic header. They'll be moving on to a game against Greece. He'll be, let's say, he'll be straight into that team, no doubt about it. And really proving a lot of people, as I says, myself included, wrong. And I'd love to see that, because he's been an absolute revelation. And let's be honest, a complete and utter bargain, because what you're getting for the nominal fee that we got him for at the material time is just fantastic. And it's one of these rare things that we occasionally do where we just unearth these gems and they come good. But you're saying you'd love to see that relationship between the two American guys and the centre of the defence. But how likely is that going to be? That's the point. So that's interesting.
Yeah, the only way that trusty Carter Vickers partnership comes to fruition right now at this moment in time is if Scales gets injured or suspended. Because, like you say, he's been a revelation at the start of this season. Like yourself, Paddy, and probably Steve as well, had a lot of doubts about him last season, but he's come in. He's not had a bad performance. He's been a standout player, and getting that first international goal. I watched his interview with RTE Sport, I think it was.
It's hard not to like him, isn't it?
Exactly.
A very nice guy.
A 3-minute long video, and he was just delighted, and you can see the joy in his face. Even after he scored his first goal in the Champions League against Bratislava, the interview after the game, he was just delighted, and he knows he loves the club. He knows what the club's means. He's a proud Irishman, and I think for Celtic fans, what's not to love about Liam Scales at the minute?
That's it. I mean, the thing is as well, you look at him, it gives you 110% every single week. He's one of these guys that goes out there, wears his heart on his sleeve. Ability aside, he just goes for it, doesn't he?
Just to jump in, just to kick back on that, because I've seen this a lot, and we've said this at times about Maeda, and we've said he works hard, and then focusing, well, you've got to look at how much he offers you. When can we stop making his work rate as his key attribute? And it's the same as we just say, that's no disrespect to yourself, Paddy, but we say, ability aside, when can we just start laying some praise on him as he is a good footballer, he is a good defender? Because we always say, like, guys maybe, do you know what, is he Maldini? No, he's not, but very few are Maldini, but he is a good footballer. So we say ability aside, and sometimes that seems a wee bit harsh, but you're kind of downplaying it. I think it's time we just start saying Liam Scales is a good defender.
This season, he's stepped up. He really has. He stepped up. And I joked last season. We were at, I think it was the Atletico Madrid game. And I was saying to my mate, we've got the Ginger Maldini at the back here. Here we go. We kind of joked about it. And one of he's actually got a top with Ginger Maldini on the back, which I think is absolute class. That was a kind of running joke. But do you know what? Now he is actually starting to come into his own. He's made that position his own, and I think if Trusty wants it, he's going to have to try and take it off him, or like Josh says, an injury or a booking or something.
And that can only be good for us, because the old adage that iron sharpens iron. If you've got absolute quality around there, you've got guys that are kicking on, it's going to make you play better, play out your skin, because you want to hold on to that jersey. And equally, if you're in the chasing pack, then you want to be doing it. It'll just be interesting to see how that comes about, as you say, because potentially it would maybe only come if there was an injury, or maybe taking them off cautionary near the end of a game, because generally speaking, we don't chop and change, even with our substitutions with our defenders. Usually that sort of central back line, the manager likes to keep that. He likes to keep the spine very, very similar continually, and I think that's a position where you don't chop and change too much. Maybe a late sub or that, but a good headache to have, isn't it? A very, very good headache to have. Just to quickly move in, we've mentioned Bernardo, he's been fantastic. Engels we've touched on, McCowan as well, and there's one here, and this came up because this one came back. I just want to go to yourself, Josh, and get your feeling on this. Rio Hatate, undoubtedly fantastic player, absolutely amazing, Paddy's personal favourite. But there has been a wee bit of, we saw this hustling, bustling, where he came back at the end of last season, through the pre-season, looked sharp, fantastic. It's been a wee bit up and down and mixed, and there seems to be this general feeling among some that he's cutting a frustrated figure, that he maybe wants away. Do you buy into that at all, Josh, or do you think that's just he's not getting a run?
I think it's just the body language thing. Is probably frustration at himself that he's not playing well and getting a run in the team either. I don't think he wants away. Listen, if he's been quite open in the past about wanting to move to the English Premier League and things like that, but that's only going to come if you perform at Celtic. At the minute this season, he's not consistently performed. Luke McCowan's probably outperformed him this season. I would perhaps argue Rio obviously had a good performance away at St Mirren 2-3 games into the season where he scored a beauty with his left foot. But aside from that, he's not particularly done much. So I think he does need to step up in terms of his performance level, but understand how it is difficult for him when he's not getting a consistent run in the team. Listen, away at Dortmund, he was one of the other ones I thought who came on in the second half and was actually not too bad.
Yeah,
in his
definitely
performance. Yeah, definitely. And he does have that kind of, one of his key attributes is taking risks in his game. And he offers something a lot of Celtic midfielders don't, in terms of he will continually play that risky pass, regardless of whether he's got the first one wrong or he's messed the first one up. He'll just continually do it. And that can sometimes not benefit him at times. But sometimes it can. He's been inconsistent. He does need to find that level of consistency. But like you say, Steve, iron sharpens iron. Like, he's got a lot of competition in that midfield. Bernardo, Engels, McCowan, McGregor. So he's going to have to work for his minutes. I don't think he wants away. But at the same time, if the club did get an offer in January for, say, £15 million, £12 million, £30 million, I think they perhaps would.
I think they would. Yeah, I think they maybe would consider it. I think that's fair to say. But as we say, better headaches to have, and even a maybe slightly underperforming Rio Hatate, he's one of these guys. He's always got a moment of magic in him. So you'd rather have him around than certainly not.
Yeah,
and that's the positive there. But let's kick on to what we came here for, because there's actually some real news for Celtic, and it's actually quite an interesting one because it looks as if pretty much imminent. With Stephen McCown's, we all know, a go-to for the Celtic board. If they want to drip feed something into ether, get a wee gauge on it, they fire it out there. And the rumblings throughout the course of the week is that Celtic are about to finally get a new head of recruitment. Obviously, we've seen Joe Dudgeon and Mark Law. Failed experiment, and they went away, and we're kind of left a wee bit in the dark about who's running the show, who's making the signings, who's making the decisions, who's identifying, scouting, blah, 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 blah. And it was pretty much looked as if it was all on the doorstep of Brendan Rodgers. But it's came out that it looks as if it's going to be Paul Tisdale. Paul Tisdale, a man who calls himself self-styled football doctor, and also has been called the most stylish man in football because of his sometimes quite elaborate and quite flamboyant get-ups, pork pie hats, cravats, all that kind of stuff. But he looks as if he's going to be getting announced. Hopefully, we'll get an official announcement, as you say at the start, Josh, when we were talking. Celtic getting great at communicating these behind-the-scene things. But it looks as if all roads are leading to Paul Tisdale taking up this role. So, head of recruitment, where it's saying he would also oversee pretty much the whole footballing type operations from that sort of developmental and signing policy. He'd oversee recruitment, data and analysis, and also coaching development. So, quite a large role overarching. And the rumours were, one of our 20-minute times had put out a wee thing as well, and we saw it when it was, we were all starved of rumours at the time, but during the summer there was apparently this picture of, turns out to be Paul Tisdale, and some days we hear their granny's grand's pal overheard him saying, I'm helping out Celtic, took a photo of it, but turns out it's Paul Tisdale. And apparently he was working in a consultant role. Now, we've had previously jobs for the boys. Gordon Strachan came in under the Postecoglou regime as a consultant, and nothing came of it. So these do happen in football, these kind of freelance, if you will. But it seems now as if we're going to level that up and we're going to have him in a full-time capacity. Certainly, if he's been helping out, that means some of these signings that we've mentioned, did he have a hand in them? Great if he did, because there's been some real positives there. But it's something that we've been crying out for, a wee bit of structure and a key position. And what do you think you're at? We'll go down yourself firstly, Josh. Paul Tisdale, big position, something needing filled. Is this can only be a positive for us, can it not?
Yeah, definitely. He seems like a very well-educated guy who's very knowledgeable about football and how it works and how the transfer market works. Dr. Tisdale, I guess we can start calling him that. No, I think it's a very positive appointment if Celtic managed to get it over the line. I think when Brendan Rodgers was talking in the summer about recruitment, the process was that the scouting team would identify players that Celtic could look to sign. The scouting team would then put those players forward to Brendan Rodgers. Then he'd give it the yes or no. And then after that, it would go to the board to shell out the deal with the club Celtic are looking to buy the player from. With Tisdale coming in, I'm not sure how it's going to work, but it can only be positive because in his 12 years as a manager, over a decade at Exeter City, he got into the highest ever finish in English football and leagues. He really rebuilt the club from top to bottom, got them playing the way he wanted to, signed the players he wanted, identified players for a cheap price, developed them and sold them on for a high profit. Obviously on a much lesser scale than what Celtic do financially. So I think he'd be really good. Obviously, English football in circles, Brendan Rodgers is quite close with a lot of people down there, so it's probably someone he knows and he's familiar with, which is only good. And he did talk about it over the summer as well, having a kind of an overhaul of this recruitment department in Tisdale. Looks like he's going to come in and kind of heed that. And like you said, Steve, if he had a hand in some of the signings Celtic made over the summer, hopefully for the club it is a sign of things to come, because so far he's looked pretty good. I was reading an interview this morning with a Spurs legend. The guy's name escapes me now, but he was basically Paul Tisdale's boss at Exeter. So Tisdale was the manager of the club, and this guy from Spurs, I think it's Perryman, maybe his name's Steve Perryman, I want to say.
Yeah,
I think it was him. He was the football director of the club at the time, for the 12 years that Tisdale was in charge, and he appointed Tisdale as the manager, and he had nothing but good things to say about him. So if anyone's wanting to read up a bit more, try find that article. It was on Mail Sport online, but yeah, against Stephen McGowan, who's usually reliable. So yeah, I think it'd be a good appointment. I don't know if I'll be impressed if he rocks up to Celtic Park, Steve-O, and some of the gear you mentioned. But listen, if he's going to come in,
he can be as eccentric as he wants as long as he gets the job done.
Exactly, as long as he gets the job done, and it's something the club have been crying out for a long time now, to modernise the football and operations department. And it looks like Tisdale's going to come in and do that. But like you say, a lot of fans just want communication, and if he is going to be appointed, that the club make an announcement, and hopefully that can come over the coming week.
But that's the thing. He's very much a footballing man, and as you touched on, a bit of a playing career, just a sort of whistle-stop tour him. 51-year-old ex-midfielder. He didn't exactly, set the header alight in terms of his profession, but that's irrelevant. You look at guys like Jose Mourinho, great football mind. He was never a footballer, so it's irrelevant. But he did play Exeter, Bristol City, Huddersfield, Panios in Greece, and also Southampton was sort of the highest level he got to. 8 career appearances before, as you say, his injury. But he then went into management, MK Dons, Exeter, Stevenage, Bristol as well. And he's previously had experience at larger clubs, Premier League, with consultancy roles, as we mentioned, kind of freelance advisory for Fulham and Palace. So he really knows what he's doing. In terms of this idea, what is he, a footballing doctor? I've done a wee bit of reading on him, and I've got a quote that I'll bring up, and I'll go yourself after that, Paddy, that I think kind of, when you read it, and anything you see interviews with him, I think he talks very well. He seems very, very invested in, as you say, Josh, development, growth, identifying, building long-term strategies, which is certainly for a club of our size something that we need to do. Yes, it's great. We buy the here and now guys that are going to perform on the pitch, but how many times have we heard people saying pathway for the youth, developing, cultivating our own talent, and it never really happens. So if we can get someone of his ilk and reputation in the door for the long term, and hopefully it'll build us up. In terms of this football and doctor, here's his own words. This was from an excerpt from an interview he done, where he says, "I work as what I call a football doctor. I go into clubs and try to find performance improvement solutions using data and also my experience as a coach. I can translate very well from boardroom to the pitch and from pitch to boardroom, and also deliver CPD, which is continuous professional development, or coach mentoring. I'm currently in a period where I'm doing a bit of lots of things, waiting for one thing really to take off, keeping me busy, and I'm self-employed, my own businesses, and really enjoying it." So, as he says, just a wee snapshot of his mindset and the way that he thinks, Paddy. He's obviously comes in and he's about building, he's about mentoring, fostering positive sort of approaches and methods to the way things go as well. And another thing as well that in the same interview that extended on was when he was talking about his time he was at Exeter. He was actually the guy that identified and gave Ollie Watkins his debut. Now that didn't work out too bad for him. And we hear some of these terms, football doctor and things like that, and it sounds a bit pretentious. Now, I'll throw out another thing that he spoke about, which was psychological repositioning of players. Now, that sounds waffle. But he explains it, and he says, particularly looking at Ollie Watkins, he says, when we had him out, we sent him out on loan, and he was originally a left-sided winger. Yeah. But we noticed that the player wasn't invested in the game, he wasn't engaging in the game, he was drifting out the game. And when we broke it down, we sat down, when we analysed and spoke to him, It was because he didn't feel engaged in the game, getting involved in the game, not getting enough touches with the team he was playing with. So, through whatever, therapies or whatever they do, they identified he needs to be more involved. He needs more touches of the game. And it's all right saying, get yourself involved, come looking for the ball. But that was not quite the way his team played. So what did they do? What was going to be more beneficial for him? Play him through the middle, because he would feel more comfortable and more involved. And just by that experiment alone, it turned out Ollie Watkins was actually a very good striker and he was not a winger. So there we go. That's just one example. Yeah, it's a bit wishy-washy. But see if you can take guys, because we've mentioned guys, for example, Palmer, and saying, can we reposition, can we repurpose Palmer to get more out of him? Then I'm all for that. If it's blue sky thinking, if it's brainstorming, some of these things don't work. But new approaches and something different can only help, can it not, Paddy?
Oh, 100%. I mean, you look at it, Josh has touched on what he'd said there as well, and he's a developmental player. He likes to bring these guys in. Like you said, working on a budget, which Celtic relatively tend to do. So if you're bringing in players, working on them, making them better, selling them on for profit, that fits right into where we are. Brendan Rodgers, as we know, is a very, very, very good man manager. And this guy coming in, I think it's going to strengthen up and work alongside what Brendan's got planned as well. Obviously, I think that's going to fit in really well. Talking about, obviously, working with our players, like you've seen what Brendan's done to some of the players, Callum McGregor, Nicholas Kuhn, Dyson Maeda. You look at these guys, the difference is incredible in what's happened there. If you're bringing in this guy who this is his actual job, this is what he's going to be in here to do, by all accounts, it's going to be absolutely incredible. Whereas the recruitment side of it, fantastic. That's exactly what we've been calling for. You just need to look at the transfer window there when we were sitting on here near enough every day going, yep, still nothing, guys. Don't know what's happening now. We've not heard anything again, and we've not signed anybody yet. And it got a bit disheartening. I think having somebody in that role, obviously an upgrade on Lowell was... it wouldn't have been hard. Me, you, or Josh would have been an upgrade on him. But I think it's absolutely outstanding having this guy in the door to do this, and it can only be positive. I'm excited going forward. I just hope he's announced very, very soon.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of these things, Josh, is it not? Obviously the bread and butter is how we perform on the pitch. You need to have the quality players on the pitch. You need to have the quality managers and coaching staff on the bench. That goes without saying. But this longer term solutions, blue sky thinking, if you will, this is really what, not to be patronising, it's what big clubs do, isn't it? And yeah, there's a lot of sort of touchy-feely elements to the way football, and a lot of the sort of old guard and old school don't like these methods, but there's a lot to be said for sports psychologists and sort of, data analysis and all that kind of stuff. And I think for us as a club, from at least my knowledge of what we do and don't do at Celtic, we are a wee bit behind the curve. When you look at, particularly see, there's been many features on the likes of Soccer Saturday where you've had a club say it's Bournemouth and they give you a tour of their facilities, and this is our sports science bit, this is our data analysis suite and all this kind of stuff. You never hear these kind of things at Celtic. And they're very, very small things. They're only wee pieces that go to a larger jigsaw. But it's definitely, if it's something that we're looking at to bring in and drop in, then it's only going to be beneficial. Now, my hope would be, certainly, if Tisdale's going to be the man, it'll be strange to see how quickly or whatever we can maybe see results, because people are instantly focused on head of recruitment. So that's obviously going to be where he's predominantly going to be judged, is it not? Who we sign, because you're putting a name to the recruiting. So that's going to be something there as well. The longer benefits, the longer term thinking things, you're probably not going to see them directly, but they should have an effect, will they not?
Yeah, definitely. I think as a club, you should constantly be looking to modernise and be ahead of the curve in terms of these things, like you say, data analysis, having a head of recruitment in place. So Tisdale will be a good guy for it. Like you say, the recruitment, it's all going to be in his head now because that's what he's been brought in to do. So no pressure on his shoulders there. But if he has had a hand, even a slight hand in some of the dealings over the summer, it's only a good thing. He did as well bring Ethan Ampadu. I don't know if you've heard of him. He has quite a lot of caps for Wales. he gave him his senior debut for Exeter at 15. So Ollie Watkins, perhaps not just a one-off. He also helped bring through Matt Grimes at Swansea, who I believe is Swansea captain now. So he has developed a lot of players into good players. And I would like to see him perhaps take some of that into Celtic's academy as well and help bring through these young guys and give them opportunities in the first team as well. And one thing I would like to point towards as well, and not a lot of people have spoken about this in general, is Brendan Rodgers' contract. Now, his contract is due to expire not at the end of this season, but the season following that. Now, if you're bringing in Paul Tisdale, it suggests he's going to be a long-term appointment and he's going to be at the club overseeing everything. I think the next step after you appoint Tisdale would to reward Brendan Rodgers with a new contract and ensure you have that long-term stability with both Tisdale at the top and then Rodgers. So I would like to see that happen as well, and I wonder if it will, because he's had a sensational start to this season. I think he deserves a new contract.
Oh, 100%. But so that's the news there. We'll see this one still an official announcement still to be made, but certainly from the way the story's been going and obviously the source material of it being Steve McGowan, who says that's Celtic's go-to guy. I would like to see this as being something that comes out quite soon. And I think as well, the benefits of it, not just from having someone in place, it's obviously taking that wee bit more pressure off the shoulders of Brendan Rodgers, allowing him essentially to get down to his day-to-day business, what he's here to do, coach the squad, get them playing and get the results on the pitch. But we'll see how that one pans out. And aside for that, there's been some other things as we'll say, and it was yourself where you brought that up, we've seen it, is Bernabei. So, he's over there at International in Brazil. He's 14 games so far, decent performances, getting rave reviews, 2 goals, 2 assists, and it all looks as if he's going to be actually getting moved on, Josh.
Yeah, it was the club's president who was on radio in Brazil the other day during the week. They're saying that they want to sign him permanently. They're trying to move towards that. So I expect him to go there. I expect him to leave Celtic permanently. I think he's not rated by a lot of people within the club. I just think it was a move that never really worked out. Whether it be with the drink driving or just whether it be with his performances in general, I don't think it was a failed experiment bringing him in. Perhaps too big of a culture change too early on in his career, because he was only 20, 21 when he joined. The big question I would want to know about Bernabei is Celtic over the summer particularly done really well in getting decent sizable fees for guys who were on the fringes of the squad not playing. I look at Bosan Lawal, Sead Haksabanovic, Benji Siegrist. So I just wonder if they can replicate that with Bernabei. I think they signed him for round about £3.5 million, £3.75 million. And I think they could recoup that.
I saw it earlier today. The fees meant to be somewhere, allegedly, around about £2.5 million, which is actually not too bad, because typically I always say that usually your South American teams, they don't really like paying fees a lot of the time for guys. I think that's fair to say. So that'd be not a bad recoup, but I don't know, Josh.
Yeah, I think it'd be all right for a guy who's a complete car crash of a signing at Celtic, to be honest. Apart from a couple of good performances, I think £2.5 million is fine. To send him back to Brazil, he seems to be enjoying his football there. He's doing well, and that can only be good for him.
Yeah. No, I mean, Paddy, it's one of these ones. Sometimes they don't work out. And another guy as well that seems to have hit the ground running is over at Genk as well. I see he's with 3 goals, couple of assists as well. So in 8 games for them. So, sometimes these guys just don't work out. But if you're not making any loss, or if you are making a loss that's negligible, then you can't complain. It's got to be sort of all good round. Now, as we say, at this moment in time, we trust they being left side, that there's a wee bit of potential to move over if need be. We've got Valle in the door. We've got, excuse me, Taylor still there, probably going to do an extension. Bernabei's just a guy that would be collecting a wage, to be fair. But that's a nice segue on, because we've all seen, and it's fun, isn't it? It's a bit of fun. We've all seen the pictures of Brendan probably talking about when he went and saw Celtic play Finn Harps in 1983 to a certain Mr. Kieran Tierney at a foundation gala event down in London the other day. And that obviously got the rumour mill fired up again, didn't it? And at least try to be convincing him to go up the road. So, Kieran Tierney, 2026, his contract expires, and he's still going to be worth up to about £10 million. But, Paddy, see by the way that Celtic have spent money, and have surprised us in 2 occasions, right? They went and spent that on Engels, spent that on Ida. Does that maybe seem less unlikely now?
Birthday card pish, mate. No, I can't see it happen. I really can't. I'd love Kieran to come back. He was a great ambassador for the club. He was an incredible player. But I think that ship sailed for me. Possibly beginning of last season when we were looking at a left back before we brought in Alex Valle. Kieran Tierney would have been top of my radar. Bring him in 10 million, no problem, pay it.
Positive Paddy.
I know, that was it. Do you know what I mean? I was excited to see that. But now, I can't see it. I can't see it happening. I think, as you say, it's just been a chance meeting with the two of them there, and they're standing talking, and somebody's given it here we go, Kieran signing for Celtic, let's get a picture and start the rumour mill going, stick it on Twitter, and everybody goes crazy. I just think that's kind of where it's at. I can't see it happening. On the Bernabei thing and the O thing as well, you'd said about that. I think, like we spoke about with Mikey Johnson, the Celtic jersey is a heavy jersey to wear. You're expected to win every single week. You're expected to perform every single week. And that pressure on these types of players might possibly just have been a little bit too much.
That's possible.
They're enjoying themselves out there. So, yeah.
That's possible. Well, in between that, Josh, the only other thing really between these wee things that have come out, the big one obviously is Tisdale. That's massive. Seems sometimes these off the field events don't really, grab people's attention or excite them too much, but certainly something that we need, something that's required. Obviously, Bernabei as well. That would probably be, they're looking at a January thing, irrelevant. If you're going to get them moved on and that's going to be you do it, then fine. But if you make it in January, perfect as well. But other than that, there was obviously a wee game, and Paddy says about jerseys wearing heavy on certain guys, and that's probably a good discussion to come back to the Sligo game, because obviously there was a couple of guys there, peripheral characters, whatever term you want to fire on them. We got to see Narotsky. Obviously San Fran saying there would they be wanting a Narotsky as well over at International. so there's questions over him. We obviously seen Bain. Like, Bain was there by design. He's the DJ at the team, so it doesn't matter. His position's solid anyway. And obviously we had guys in the team like Palmer. Again, some that there's been some question marks over. Obviously, there was a lot as well that you'll be able to talk to us about in terms of the youth guys. That's sort of your bag, a lot about that. But the likes of the Sligo game, was there anything, big takeaways for you for that match?
Scott Bain should keep to his role as team DJ, Steve-O. That'd be the big takeaway. He's the Scott Carson of Celtic, isn't he? Like what Scott Carson is at Man City. That's his role in the team. I think he knows that. He's picking up a wage, and I think any of us three would take Scott Bain's role in the team right this second, even if it meant chucking 2 in away at Sligo. Aside from that, Luis Palma, a hat-trick. You can never ignore that, regardless of it being 3 kind of back post tap-ins. You can't ignore him going out there, scoring a hat-trick. I think he's only started 1 game this season. Didn't impress against Falkirk in that game. But he took his chance the other night. It'll be interesting to see how this thing kind of progresses now with Palma, because his dad came out on radio and
seen that,
homeland in Honduras the other week, basically the other day saying that Palma's just work. He's kind of taking his focus a bit off social media now and just focusing on things and playing for Celtic, and not thinking of his future until the end of the season. So that's positive. He clearly has been a bit of a change in attitude in him, which is good to see. And so far, it's transformed onto the pitch with a hat-trick, but it's against Sligo. It's in a friendly that didn't matter. So when he comes into the first team and plays in a competitive game, I'll be very interested to see how he does. And I think he will get the opportunities. And could he be reborn? You never know. He's shown talent before. Celtic, obviously, he scored in both of the games where Celtic didn't lose in the Champions League last season. And I think he got 20 goal contributions in 36 games, which on paper is good. But his performances were frustrating to watch at times. So I'll be interested to see what the situation, how his situation develops over the next couple of weeks. On the youth players, there are a couple of guys who certainly impressed. Sean McArdle and Samuel Izaguso. Let's say Sean McArdle there, speak of. He got the assist for Palma's second goal. It was a lovely left-footed ball into the back post. He's a technically gifted player. Sean McArdle, a midfielder. He's not the tallest, but he's very good on the ball. And his technical ability is very good, and that comes from his time playing futsal, which if anyone doesn't know is indoor football. So he played a lot of that until a couple
Did
of years.
Rogic not play that as well? Was
He
that
might have.
one? Yeah.
Yeah, he might have. There are some similarities in their two styles of play, except Mercado's not as physical and tall. But yeah, he has a good history playing futsal. So that's probably helped him. Samuel Jaguso is another one. He's a forward player. He put the ball into the box for the winner. He scored 2 goals in 4 games for the B team.
And on
this
that, to
season.
jump in, we spoke about Palmer's tap-ins. I thought that third goal was very, very good because he came in quite high and he to connect with the other two. He just sort of had to be there and shoot him home. But he caught that one nice, so that was a good finish.
Yeah, definitely. So Palmer, like you say, can he be reborn, hopefully, for the club. But yeah, Izaguso is... The promising thing as well about Mercado and Izaguso is they're not kind of regulars in the B team yet. They're still just 17 years old and they're playing a lot with the 18s at the minute. So I'll be interested to see what Rodgers takes from their performances. He was quite a bit scathing in his comments about the youth players after the game. He was saying that they can have technical ability and on the ball, but that's not good enough. You need physicality. You need to be physical, and I think that's what a lot of these young boys will need to develop in over the coming years if they want to get their opportunities. And the first team, Yang, looking decent as well. Exactly, it was a nice fizzing ball across goal for Palmer's opener. So there's a lot to take from that Sligo game, both good and bad. I think it's a really good learning point for Rodgers to get to know a bit better his players that are on the fringes.
But that's it. And see, come back. Just want to touch on Palmer because there's been a lot of chat around Palmer. Certainly, we are coming here. Some thought that we might have been a bit harsh on him. I think, as we say, could it be repurposed? I think that's what we maybe really need to think about. Could it be repurposed? I think if we say, is it going to start on the wing? It's probably unlikely given the form, obviously, that we've got in Maeda, Forrest, and obviously there's versatility there as well. So, but if you could bring him on, if he's happy and he can develop and kick on, use those 3 goals as, inspiration, influence to continue on the right vein, Drew says, coming off social media, getting his head in the game, can only be positive for Celtic. And I really hope that that's what he does. I would love to see us getting back the Palmer with the threat level that we were getting when he first came in the door. Admittedly, his all-round game was never fantastic, but if he's scoring the goals and you can bring on somebody and he can pop up with one, that's going to be invaluable. Now, there was actually a quote I want to ask both of you. I'll start first off yourself, Paddy, on this one from Brendan Rodgers himself. So if you guys like us sitting on here having an opinion, you maybe don't agree with that, then what about this by the manager? He says he's a very good technician. I mean, he plays for the team and works hard and presses well. He can be a very good player. Now, to me, that says what we've been pointing out. He is a very good player, but when he does that wee bit more, when he just does the wee bit extra that everybody else is doing, then he's a very good player. What do you think of that as a sort of a message? Is that a sort of an all-round positive, or is it a wee bit of a clever wording by Rodgers, a wee bit of a shit sandwich where he's going, well, you're really good, mate, but just do that a wee bit more and you'll be better?
Could be a bit of both, to be honest. We know he is a decent enough player. You just need to look at his statistics for that. He comes on and he does do the damage. I've spoken about it before, like him cutting inside all the time and things like that. It becomes a bit predictable because we're used to Maeda going for the byline and Kuhn going for the byline at the other side, whereas Palma's more likely to cut inside and possibly have a shot rather than putting the ball into the box. And for me, I think that's just part of him being young. I think we can get that out of him and make him a bit more of a team player rather than an individually talented young guy.
Send him to the football doctor.
Yeah. Send him to the doctor. The doctor could maybe come in here and say, right, wee man. I don't know if you've remember the film Goal about a young guy called Santiago Nunez, and I think he signs for Newcastle, and the manager there's watching him and he says, right, listen, you're technically gifted. He says, he's holding the ball and he kicks the ball and he says, right, go get the ball, and he runs to get it, and he does it about 10 times, and then eventually comes back and he says, what did you realise there? And he says, oh, I'm running to get the ball, I don't know. And he says, no, the ball's faster than you. Move the ball, pass it. And basically, I think that's what you need to say to Palmer, is because he's more likely to take on another player and try and get a shot off than set up a striker in a better position. And for me, I think that's one wee bit that we need to work on with him. But there's no doubt, as we say that quote again, there is a player in there. He is a talented young player. and I'd like to see him progress. Listen, a hat-trick against Sligo Rovers isn't going to light up the stars and get him straight back into the squad against Aberdeen, I don't think, but
as a start, it's the right
start.
direction to be going.
It's a start, and it's going in the right direction, and he's shown that word that he used on Instagram before he's quit all it. Resilience.
And yourself, Josh, what do you take off the comments of the manager there, just as an assessment?
I think it's quite interesting because obviously he's saying when he works for the team, which suggests he doesn't do it or hasn't done it or doesn't do it often enough. And I think the manager's comments are spot on, to be honest. We all recognise that Palma has talents, and maybe they're not. Maybe it opens a wider conversation of, is he best utilised as a left winger in Celtic's team? We know what Celtic demand of the wingers. It's to be quick, it's to be aggressive in the press, it's to make effective decisions. Can Palma do all of those things? I'm not convinced he can. Could he work better, per se, in a number 10 role, in a 4-2-3-1 system where he's the attacking midfielder? I think he could, because he's on the ball, he's really good. So maybe that's something to think about, that the doctor of football can maybe change in terms of Luis Palma. There is, like you say, Paddy, a player in there, but can he be unlocked?
Yeah, and aside from maybe being a 10 or brought on as an impact, could they be utilised as maybe like a false 9 as well? He's got an eye for goal, if you're maybe looking to bring on another option where it's not going with 2 traditional strikers, but having someone that could do that. Is that another consideration for mixing it up, particularly maybe European games?
Yeah, I think it's a shout. One of the things with Palma, though, I think seem to recognise is he's not that quick. Compared to players like Kuhn, Kyogo, Maeda, he's not the fastest player. So if you put him in the team, I don't think you can expect him to be shutting down and pressing opponents at the same speed as what those 3 other players do. But I think there is a place for him. There's a time and a place to use him. I
think in that terms of profile, you say he's not having a lot of speed. There's some similarities to me, but he reminds me a bit like Chris Commons, actually, because Chris Commons weren't ever particularly graced with speed and gliding, sort of, twinkling toes. He was a guy that had a great eye for goals, we've seen for Palma. So maybe there's a wee bit of sort of Chris Commonsy type role that could be in there for him. But as we say, we'll take it as we find it. So far, 3 goals, albeit regardless, take who it is, whatever, face value. You've got to be there, you've got to be in position, you've got to score the goals. And hopefully, with all these combinations coming off the social media, talking about wanting to focus, the manager's message, which, as it says, is a combination, there's a lot of positives in there, but it's still a wee nodage you've got to take a wee bit more work, then that could be good. And maybe we'll see a rebirth of him, and hopefully we will, because we've got a lot of big games coming on. We'll just quickly touch the name before we finish up. Straight back, Aberdeen, top of the table clash. They are getting into this game. Fine form, joint top at the moment. Ground out a great result against Hearts, so they're showing a wee bit of resilience, a wee bit of toughness. Of course, it's going to be at Parkhead, Josh. It's going to be in front of ourselves, going to be a normal, regular kick-off, traditional kick-off, non-televised. It's going to be their first big test, and arguably, just by nature of the table, it's going to be our first big domestic test as well. Jimmy Thielen's come in, he's done very well, he's getting rare plaudits. He's again another guy that looks as if he's had an eye for some great signings that he's brought in from, doing very well. Could this one be, we spoke about principles, how we want to play and just continually doing the same thing. He seems like a guy that does this as well. Now, what could the ramifications be for an Aberdeen team? They try to come and high press a Celtic team at Celtic Park.
But you never know, listen, I think they've got a talented squad that Jimmy Tillian's built, and they seem to be clicking at the start of this season. 3 other players are in the Scotland squad this international break, which is the same amount of players Celtic got called up. So you have to give them praise for that, and you have to give them praise for the winning run they've been on. But they've not been tested really against a good team this season. They've not played Celtic yet, who are the best in the country. So I'm just very interested, like yourself, Steve, to see how the styles clash, because Celtic aren't going to change their style for anyone. And the question there, I wonder, will Aberdeen come at us? I think they will. I think they have to. When you're on a winning run like they're on, I think their fans would be annoyed if they came to Celtic Park and just shut up shop. Take inspiration from Falkirk in that League Cup game a couple of weeks ago. They came out, they pressed Celtic, albeit a weakened Celtic team which had a lot of changes. They came out, they pressed, and they held Celtic and were winning the game with 20 minutes to go until Adam Ida scored twice in the space of 30 seconds. So they should take some inspiration from that. because Aberdeen have got a much better squad than Falkirk and much better players, international players, that Falkirk don't have. So I think it's going to be a tough test, a very tough test for Celtic. But like you say there, if they do high press, then it could be one that once Celtic break through it once, you just see it happen again and again and again. So I'm just very interested to see tactically how the game's going to go. It could be one where it's going to be close. It's going to be maybe a 2-1, a 1-0, a 3-2, something like that. Or it could be one where Celtic completely obliterate Aberdeen and win by 5 or 6.
4, Paddy?
Yeah, mate, listen, I think Aberdeen coming to Celtic Park, if they do come at us, I think that's foolish. I think if their manager knows anything about Scottish football and has watched any of our games, I think coming to Celtic Park and playing that style of football is daftness. I just think they'll be demoralised by half time. I think it'll be done and dusted. I'll be saying 4-0. Although Aberdeen have got the possibility to score a goal, but I think Casper's ready to redeem himself. Like you say, Josh, he's not conceded a goal from open play, so that's good enough for me. I'm quite positive going into it that going forward, we've got the ability to pin Aberdeen back to make sure that they can't play their own game. Like you say, they've played against the other teams in the Scottish Premier League, but they've not come up against anybody of any quality round about them. So They've not played the team across the city and they've not played us yet. So I'm confident that if they do come at us and they do this, then it'll be a demolition.
I think as well, a point I would add is Celtic Park is going to be rocking for that game a week on Saturday. Top of the table clash, 3 o'clock kickoff on a Saturday. Everyone is going to be up for it. Full house. A lot of Aberdeen fans coming down for it as well. So it's going to be a cracker.
No, it's going to be an absolute barn burner. This is why it's came at a right good time for us. International breaks normally get in the way, but I feel that this one's well placed for a change. Not because we're on a particularly bad run of form, maybe just a wee bit deflated, which says European hangover. But in terms of maybe getting guys back to a wee bit of fitness, unclear at this moment in time. We'll await any news on the update of Carter Vickers. Obviously, it being a sort of footstroke metatarsal, there's not really much you can do for that other than rest. Wouldn't want to rush him back. Taylor, again, a wee bit unclear what's going there. But I think just for the team in general, guys like Arne Engels maybe didn't have the greatest last 2 performances there. He's away, international duty. You know what I mean? He'll be among his teammates there. It's a big positive, another good positive experience for him to take away and come back refreshed and ready to go. So I think it's came at a really, really good time for Celtic. Regardless if we see guys returning from injury or otherwise, I think that we've got far more than enough quality on there as well. Also, we get guys like Scales playing internationals. He'll be come back absolutely buzzing. Adamida didn't get on the pitch, but in this game against Greece, who just off the back of beating England, that was a nice one. Maybe he'll get some time on the pitch as well. I'd like to see that as well and get these guys firing ready to go, because after Aberdeen, of course, there's bigger fish to fry. It's Atalanta, it's away. We spoke about learning. We hear it all the time, Josh. We'll learn from these experiences. You say sometimes you do get a punch in the face in Europe. We'd like them to become less regular. Mm-hmm. What's your thoughts just to finally finish off on that game after Backy and Aberdeen? You'd expect a positive result there. But how do we go into that one in particular? Have you any concerns around that?
Yeah, I think if Brendan Rodgers sets the team up the same way he did for Dortmund away, you could be looking at another defeat. Maybe not as heavy as Dortmund, but Atalanta are a really good side. They're on brilliant form at the minute. They've come into form in the last couple of games particularly. They look good, and they won the Europa League last year. So a lot of fans who perhaps don't know Atalanta by name, as the stature of someone like Inter Milan or AC Milan or Juventus, they're a really good Italian side who are playing some good stuff at the start of this season. If Celtic were to go over in there and get any points, it would be a bonus. But just seeing how Brendan Rodgers sets up the team should be interesting, because if he plays the open, expansive style that he did in Dortmund, you could be looking at another tough night.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing, Paddy. We've sat here and spoke about it. It was surmised, it's a guessing game. And I think as well, I just want to come back to that quote by Brendan Rodgers, where he essentially says, he doubled down. You can sit in, absorb pressure, and his words were, and know that they'll still break you down and hammer you. He didn't say hammer, but he alluded to it. or you can go out and fall on your sword. You can play your own way. Now, some people said that he's saying it's one or the other.
Yeah.
Do you think that's just? Do you think he's just fronting out? Do you think deep down he knows that there is an actual fine middle ground, and will we hopefully see it going into the Atalanta game?
I would love to see it, but I think, like you said, Brendan is a very much fall on your sword guy. We know he has a large ego. He carries it well. You just need to go back to the point when he first came back to the club and he says, "I'll see you all back here in May." Everybody come back and we're like, "Yeah, well done, mate. Fair play to you." Aye. We hold our tails between our legs. He's one of these guys. He knows what he can do. He knows how to do it. And I think that's what he's going to do. I think he'll go in there. He'll play the same way. I think he'll be a bit more reluctant to press as much as we did try against Dortmund. I would like to see a bit of a change in there, but I can't really see it. And like Josh says, if we can get anything out of the Atalanta game, then it's an absolute bonus for me. I certainly won't be going into that game with a 4-0 scoreline, definitely. I'd be confident to get something out of the game, but we would need to perform. It would need to be a night where each player held their own, each player went there and actually played for us, and not like the Dortmund game. I mean, we did have a lot of players who didn't perform to that.
The thing is, as we said briefly when we spoke about the Champions League at the top of the show there, these games aren't going to define our European journey this season. They're not. So it's important for us that, we'll come on here and we'll react, and if it's positive, we're buzzing. If it's negative, we'll be negative. But when we lose sight of that and we think long term, we'll look at the bigger picture. These will not define Celtic's Champions League. They just won't. It's a nicety, of course, we want to win every game. We want to get points, we want to do well, give a good account of ourselves. And hopefully we do, but it's not the end of the world. But I think that the manager will be looking at the last result, and there'll be an element of a wee bit of embarrassment on his part there as well. There's no doubt about it. He's a very proud guy, very confident. Some people say arrogant. Take it as you find it. But he, brand Brendan's also got to be protected as much as brand Celtic. And I think that's something that will be massive getting into the game. And hopefully we'll see a wee bit of a change. But Josh, getting into the game, a good result at home to Aberdeen, cementing ourselves at the top of the league to our nearest challengers, that could only be the perfect setup, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely is. Bounce back from the Dortmund defeat with a last-minute winner against Ross County, then you want to really take that on and assert your dominance against Aberdeen, and that would set Celtic up very nicely, like you say, for the trip to Bergamo.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll be looking forward to that, as we say. Hopefully we'll get the back of these international matches, and then we can get back with some more Celtic chat. We'll be back anytime there's any news if this Tisdale thing comes together. If we hear any more, of course, we'll be popping up and we'll be putting out some content there. Closer to the Aberdeen match, we'll be back to profile that, and of course afterward, and then looking towards that big massive European game. So that'll be us. We've just been over an hour, and it's been an absolute pleasure for every single one of you to join us again. Really appreciate it. As we say, community's grown here thanks to us. We've been going roughly about 7 months now. Our numbers were just short of 1,300, so we are absolutely thrilled that you have all got involved there and supported the channel. If you help us out, just continue doing that. Make sure you like it, subscribe. That's the most important, but hit the subscribe. There's still so many people watching this that haven't taken the 2 seconds to do it. It literally takes you 1 second to do, and it helps us greatly. It gets more eyes in here, helps extend the reach. So thank you to everybody for doing that as well. And as we say, we're on X at CWPod1888. Well, that's us for now, guys. It's been brilliant to have a full house, get the band back together, if you will, and have some, a wee powwow, because it's always good to have more than one opinion in this house. Josh, welcome back, mate, and hopefully we'll be hearing from you very soon again.
No, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much. Had a lot of Celtic stuff to get off my chest, so good to do that.
Aye. I'm better looking as well. I love you, Paddy, but I'm sick of seeing your big face. So,
As Mike 1967 says, we've got a face for the radio. Aye, no bother, mate.
That's that face. Maybe we should just become an audio-only podcast, eh? But anyway, it's been absolute pleasure. Thank you to every single one of you, whether you watched it live with us or whether you're retrospectively catching up. So thank you once again. But until the next time, as always, you take care of yourself. And of course, hail, hail.